Relationship with friends, you know, it's always you running after the relationships, only you wanting the relationship. The person is always there, and then they feel entitled. They feel entitled. They feel you should come to them all the time. And the moment you're not coming to them, they feel you have done something wrong. The heaven needs to come down, you know? Or when they do those tiny little bit of things for you, then they blow it up and make it like, wow, they've done something. Remembering that they've only done that after they have satisfied themselves, and they give you the remnants from what they have. A toxic relationship. A toxic relationship can be draining. It can actually kill your self-esteem. A toxic relationship is definitely not healthy. You don't want to find yourself in a toxic relationship. And as humans, we get warning signs, early warning signs, but because we are humans, we sometimes ignore those early signs or the red flags that we are in a toxic relationship. Today I'll be talking to you about my experience of how to identify toxic relationship, and how to know when a relationship is toxic, and when you need to start addressing them. Because it's always nice when you are in a good relationship. Now, in this case, it's not about being a relationship with your partner. It can be a toxic relationship with not partner, your maybe the others, your maybe a man and a woman. No, it can be with friends, it can be with family, it can be with your parents, you know. So you always need to ask yourself, is this relationship toxic? Am I really unhappy in this relationship? And what is actually making me unhappy? Today I'm going to be talking in more details, because you might, if you're watching this, you might be wondering, am I in a toxic relationship? I'm unhappy. This relationship is really draining me. You know, my self-esteem is going down the drain. You need to ask yourself those questions, and watch this, because I'll be sharing some tips on how to detox, or on how to identify early warning signs of a toxic relationship. If this is the first time you're joining us, thanks for joining. This is the Bola Adeyeye Omishade Show, a community where we support people to be the best version of themselves. So thanks for joining. And yeah, do not forget to subscribe so that you do not miss our future episodes. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, if at the end of this, you wait until the end of this episode, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. That's really appreciated. And yes, to my returning viewers, yes, as always, I am super excited that you're here. Thanks for joining me again, as always. And yes, and I hope you enjoy this. And I think we're all here to support each other. And also, if you've seen some signs, you have actually been in a relationship that you have learned some red flags, please feel free to leave those in the comments. Leave those warning signs of toxic relationship. Leave them in the comments, because yes, lots of people want to hear from you. We are here to help each other, and it's a community where we support each other. Now, like I said earlier, we see those flags coming, we see those warning signs, but we ignore them. And sometimes people confuse obsession for love. You know, one of my first sign of a toxic relationship is obsession. When you're in a relationship where one person is really obsessed about you, then you're actually risking so many things. You're risking you being very unhappy. You're risking doing things that might not actually be in line with your values. You know, you have somebody who feels that everything you need to do should revolve around them. No, you know, somebody who feels that you should wear, maybe in the case where you're in a maybe relationship like maybe you're getting married or, partnering together. To be honest, when you're partnering with somebody, there has to be compromise. But this person does not compromise. It has to be all about them. Then that's one of the warning signs that this is a toxic relationship. And you see what the other thing they do is, because they sometimes they observe you and they know you, and then they start using the way you react, or the way you trying to actually please them all the time. They start using it against you, because in most cases, this person, you're not toxic, but you always try to please them. You want to do it's always coming from your end, and it's not supposed to be so. A relationship is a partnership, it's two people coming together, and there has to be compromise. But when you realize that it's always coming from you, it's always you not wanting them to be unhappy, you trying to please them, you going the extra length to please them, then you know that is a toxic relationship. And what happens is, they sometimes maybe do one or two things for you, and then when they do it, you'll be like, oh, you'll be all excited. But have you actually sat down to do the analysis that most of the things that the give and take comes from you? If you find yourself in a position where everything is always coming from you, I'm sorry, you are in a toxic relationship. That is a toxic relationship. And then what happens is, when they do something, they go over the moon about what they have done, and you knowing that they only do that when they have satisfied themselves. They cannot go out of their way for you, but it comes across as, oh yes, they have done this for you, and then you are all over the moon about what they have done. But ask yourself, is it always coming from you? Are you the one always giving? In toxic relationship, you just end up being the one who is always on the giving side. You're always on the giving side, and maybe they just do once, and that is after they are satisfied. A toxic relationship is one where you're in a relationship with a person, could be a friend, and then they make snide remarks. They're always being sarcastic. It is a toxic relationship. They make, and joking, sometimes they say jokingly, those things that hurt your feelings, and then you come back to them and say, oh, we're only joking, or they sort of change it and say, oh, you read too much meanings to things, you're very, very sensitive, but that actually makes you unhappy. Someone who is in a genuine relationship with you would actually think that this sort of reactions, or this sort of snide remarks makes my partner unhappy. So why go ahead with it? They say things that hurts you, and it's consistent. It doesn't mean that maybe something that maybe they do once, or it's consistent. Is consistent. So when you find people making consistent, casual, sarcastic attitudes, or making snide remarks, it is a toxic relationship, because it begins to kill your self-esteem. The low self-esteem begins to set in, and gradually it builds up. You want to be very, very careful. You want to be very, very careful. The moment you start observing this, start trying to think of ways to detox that. Now, the other thing is, when you are in a relationship and then this person does not want you to maybe speak to your friends, does not want you to have friends, does not want you to be in a good relationship, maybe communicate with your family or people that you had relationship with before you met them. That is not a good sign, You need to actually stop that and say, no, this cannot happen. There has to be a compromise. My relationship, if you have to actually break it up, any past relationship or any relationship you have, you need to think about, why am I breaking up with that relationship? This other person cannot come into your life and stop you from having a relationship with other people. When they want to be the only person that is in a relationship with you, and they don't want you to text your family, they don't want you to call your family. They begin to question where when you want to go and visit a friend, they are questioning where you're going, You know, so what would happen is, if you begin to dance to their tune, that will mean that for every time you want to go out, you need to text them that, oh, I'm going out. You know, for every time you need to go out, you need to say to them that, oh, this is where I am. You know, that sometimes we want to do things on our own. We're two different people when you are in a relationship, and there's sometimes some things has to remain with you. I'm not saying that don't share thoughts together or don't do things together, but there has to be boundaries of where there is an understanding of this is a time where I want to have my time to myself. You know, I want to have my time to myself. So you need to know when to set that boundaries. And the moment you find yourself in the position where this person is always, you go somewhere and then they're reading 1 or 2 meanings to where you have gone, or you are in a relationship with one person, and then they're reading 1 or 2 meanings to it, then you need to be very careful and think about the fact that that is a toxic relationship. Because how far, or how long do you want to do this for? And then, you know, the moment you start doing that, you don't believe in yourself anymore, because they say, oh, why are you wearing this kind of clothes? I don't like this kind of clothes. Why do you have this kind of hair? Or I like red hair. Go and make red hair. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you shouldn't maybe give room for this sort of things. But when it is consistent, when everything you wear has to come from them, when the kind of hairstyle you make has to come from them, then it means that your wardrobe has to be filled with what they want. You know, but that's not what you want. You want to live your own life. You want to make some decisions yourself. You want to be happy about the decisions you make, not other people making decisions for you. But unfortunately, lots of people actually see these signs, and then we start making excuses. We start making excuses. When you find yourself start making excuses for these people, then unfortunately, you know, it's a toxic relationship. If you're in a relationship with a person that no matter what you say, they always bring you down. You know, I have been there. You know, whatever you say, there's always, what are you doing that other people have not done? It is a toxic relationship. It is a toxic relationship. And you want to think about this kind of relationship. You want to look for ways of maybe asking yourself, what am I benefiting from this relationship? Why do I need to keep this relationship? Because when people bring you down, you begin to lose confidence in yourself. You lose confidence in yourself. You don't believe in yourself anymore. For everything you do, there's always something that you have done wrong. There's never anything that is right about you. It has to be them. You know, their opinion has to stand. Then that is a toxic relationship. That is a toxic relationship, and you want to be very careful with this kind of people. You want to be careful because it's a gradual process. Now, don't get me wrong. It's this your confidence begins to diminish over time. It's not something that happens all of a sudden. It's a gradual process that builds up. And the funny thing is, if you realize that maybe at the start of your relationship, they might not do this to you, but when you start seeing them do this sort of thing to other people, so at some point they would start doing it to you. So it's a warning, it's a red flag. When you see that they bring other people down, the table will turn around sooner or later, because they start doing it to you as well. So it is, and you need to sit down and ask yourself, you know, does this person bring me down? Why do they bring me down? If it's consistent. And then some of them actually, they deal with you with silence. You know, they say, oh, I'm not a very good talker. And then they start dealing with you. They just keep quiet, you know, and tamper with your emotions. It's a very, very toxic. That person is a toxic person. You know, when the communication is really, really bad, it is a toxic relationship. You need to start thinking about it. when they, even when they have done something wrong, and you know that they have done something wrong, but of course you are always the one going back to apologize. You find yourself apologizing all the time, and then they are just very silent even when they are wrong. It is a toxic relationship. How long do you want to go on doing this? How long? How long do you want to keep apologizing for? The silence, how do you resolve it? Like I said earlier, partnership, there has to be compromise. There has to be a point where both of you would sit down and communicate, okay, this is what you have done that I don't like, and I don't like it. It has to stop. But they don't want to have this conversation with you, and then they're always blaming you all the time for everything that happens. The blame has to come from you, or the blame has to be pushed to you, or maybe you are always the reason for their actions. When you have people that say that, oh, you are always the reason for their actions, then it is a toxic relationship. Oh, you made me react this way, I always prefer to be silent. Then how do you communicate? You're not ready. It has to be, both of you need to actually put the same amount of, not the same in most cases, but you need to put, effort. It has to come, the effort into the relationship has to come from both sides, not from one end. It has to come from both sides. Being in a toxic relationship, it's draining. It can kill your self-esteem. I'll say that over and over again. You lose confidence in yourself. You don't know what is good for you anymore. You're not bold enough. You're not bold enough to face your challenges. You keep wanting, because you're used to it, because you've actually saturated yourself in that kind of environment. Then you begin to want validation from people. Before you do anything, it has to be validated by that person who is taking charge of your life. You are living your life based on what that other person wants. That is not healthy. That is not healthy. You need to start thinking about it. But then, what are the ways in which you can actually, a couple of ways I have used in the past. You want to, maybe if in a case where it's a marital relationship, maybe you want to speak to somebody who will be very objective and would guide you, maybe from their experience or from their expertise. You want this person, you want to seek an expert advice, and seek an advice for somebody who will be very objective and will be truthful on guiding you on how to handle the relationship. The other thing, like I mentioned, I think I've mentioned a couple of times, is you need to ask yourself, what am I benefiting from this relationship? What is the future? What is the long-term goal of me being in this relationship? Why do I need to be in this relationship? You need to weigh the pros and the cons of you being in that relationship, because you don't want to lose yourself. You don't want to lose who you are to a relationship that is toxic, because it would end up ruining you. It would end up wasting your time. So weigh the pros and the cons. Or you have to actually make up your mind that irrespective of whatever they say, you have to say, well, what they have said is okay to listen, but then am I benefiting? Is this good for me? You still need to actually guide it by your own thoughts and say, okay, I understand that you have said it, but on this occasion, this is what I want to do. You try and sort of know where to bridge the gap and say, well, thanks for sharing your thoughts, but on this occasion, this is what makes me happy, and this is what I want to do. But you really have to actually be intentional about this action. You have to be intentional about it if you really want to keep that relationship. And then the moment maybe where they are being sarcastic and you still want the relationship, you need to be very open about it and say, well, you make snide remarks. I don't find them funny. I'm not excited about them. Can this stop? You need to say, can this stop? Or maybe the moment just right at the beginning of that relationship with the person, and then they're saying, don't call your friends, you need to say, well, this is who I am. I would respect you. I would not be disrespectful. I would appreciate your thoughts. I would reason with you. But can you let's set that boundaries. When I want to do some things, I want to do some things. Because sometimes there's a trust issues, you need to think, and there's no point actually going into a relationship when you realize that there's trust issues. It's not good. It's not good. And this is from me watching people who I have relationship with, or people who are close to me that have been in toxic relationship. It doesn't end well. It does not end well. You know, there are lots of news going around of people going into marital relationship that is toxic. Relationship with friends, you know, it's always you running after the relationships, only you wanting the relationship. The person is always there, and then they feel entitled. They feel entitled. They feel you should come to them all the time. And the moment you're not coming to them, they feel you have done something wrong. The heaven needs to come down. You know? Or when they do those tiny little bit of things for you, then they blow it up and make it like, wow, they've done something. Remembering that they've only done that after they have satisfied themselves, and they give you the remnants from what they have. You don't want to be in that relationship. You need to value yourself. You really need to value yourself. I want you to share your thoughts. For those that are watching, share your thoughts on how you have actually been able to detox toxic relationship, or those signs that you see that you know that this is toxic. I want you to share, because there are so many people in toxic relationship and they're struggling, they're suffering. Some of them are living in denial. They are living in denial, and then they make excuses for these toxic people. Some people confuse obsession or toxic relationships for love. It's not love. Somebody who is changing your personality, who is trying to change who you are, is toxic. So if you find yourself in this position, you need to start doing something about it. I'm not saying break up your marriage. I'm not saying, you know, but you need to start looking for ways to resolve that if you want to be happy, if you want to be productive, if you want to achieve those things that you want to achieve in life. Because if you have a toxic relationship, that person will hinder you, will be an obstacle to you being the best version of yourself. Yeah, if you have found this very useful, or you think there's somebody who is in a toxic relationship and that person needs to hear this, please feel free to share this. Share this with your family, share this with your friend, anyone, you know, and then leave your comments. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from your experience of being in toxic relationship, because of course, to be fair, sometimes everyone has a bit of toxic attitude in them. We're all not perfect. We're human. But share your thoughts with me. Share those things that you feel you needed to stop, that you had to stop because you felt it is toxic. And yes, I want to hear from you. I know others want to read from you. And thanks for joining me today. If you have any question, as usual, please, the email is on the screen. Do not forget to send me an email, and then we'll I'll get experts to talk about it, or I'll treat it myself. Yeah. And yeah, thank you for joining me. And this is Bola Adeyeye Omishade, and I'll see you next week. Bye.